like to welcome everyone to this episode of AMMEA's Hot Seat series of interviews. I'd like to remind you that this podcast is sponsored by AMMEA, which is the Advocates for Music and Music Education Association, where our purpose is to cultivate, support, and enhance music and music education in the state of South Carolina through fostering academic partnerships, learning opportunities, and resources for classroom. As part of that initiative today, we have with us Mr. Ellis, who will be interviewing with our host, Mr. Linard McCloud. Mr. McCloud.
Good evening. Thank you, Stackhouse. It's a great privilege and pleasure to introduce this young guy. He is a native of Atlanta, Georgia. And I guess you have to do good things when you grow up in the Carver Homes projects in Atlanta. And he has 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And I can imagine those neighborhoods. Eddie liked to play sports. And of course, he liked hanging on the corner too. But in his neighborhood, he especially enjoyed this man named Mr. Speedy's Gospel Quartet. I think that's where you started getting your interest in music. And then he would, after he listened to the gospel, being a true musician, he would go listen to L.J. Price High School Band right down the street in the neighborhood. And from there, Eddie wanted to be a musician. So when he got into 5th grade, he met Paul Mitchell. And Paul Mitchell was a jazz musician, but that was his homeroom teacher. And so Paul asked them, they was talking one day, and he asked them, I guess he said, who wants to be in the band? And of course, Eddie raised his hand quickly. But he raised his hand only to say that he already had an instrument picked out too, because he wanted to play. He saw the circus and he saw the trombone, so he wanted to play the trombone because somehow he liked what they do with the circus with the glissandos, so he wanted to do that. So he went on and he became a member of. They started playing music then, and then because he loved Price High School so much, he met Dr. Alfred Wyatt, who became his high school band director. And after just going through and having a lot of fun there, he enrolled at Morris Brown College, where he majored in public school music. And but because Eddie's still from Carver Homes now, so you're still used to that different kind of music. So he and a group of boys got together, and they started a little group called the Soulful Sounds, and they would play in Atlanta and play all over Georgia. And I think he backed up. It was Timmy, James Brown's son. Teddy. They backed up Teddy one day, and those guys, Eddie. I don't know how the story went, but Eddie had to go in the military, and those guys kept going, and they became the popular group called Brick. A few of those guys, and so Eddie would have been. I guess Eddie's still an honorary member of Brick, and so jazz and all them good music that they did, and this. But that was interrupted with a college experience because he had to go to the military where he was drafted. But he went on to play in the 8th United States Army Band. And he did further studies at Georgia State. He did some conducting thing at Cincinnati Conservatory, Florida State. And then he was appointed the director at Morris Brown College after the passing of Mr. Cleophas Johnson. And after the retirement of Mr. Sargent, Ronald Sargent, he was hired to lead South Carolina State University. And then presently now he's the band director of bands at Allen University. Everywhere he's been, the band is good organization, just a great band director, great person, a lot of fun to be around. But it's a pleasure, Mr. Ellis, to welcome you today.
Well, thank you, Mr. McCloud, and I want to applaud you guys for this. Is a great thing that you guys have. It's a pleasure for me to be a part of it.
Well, then you have some questions, and I guess with everything happening now, you are the perfect person to ask these questions to, because I don't know how you recruit. I don't know what you do. Maybe some magic formula you have, but you can take nothing and build something. When you went to Allen University, I was saying, good Lord, I don't know who could do that. If anybody could do it, Eddie, you almost get a 200-piece band now. I don't know how you do it, Eddie. But the first question is, at what point in your career did you realize that student recruitment is a strength of yours?
Well, Ms. McCloud, I've been teaching since 1975, and I've been trying to encourage music education for that long. And during that time, I found that recruiting is a must. There are different layers of it. You know, you're recruiting to have people to join your high school band or your middle school band or your elementary school band, or we had to recruit to keep kids in our neighborhood to keep them from going up north what other people were. So you do them for different reasons, but for student membership. But to answer your question about strength, I think many times your reputation is centered on a perception other people, have about you based on what they may have heard or thought or they observed from the outside. However, in the words of a great director, you are looking. Sometimes you're looking, but you can't see, or listening, but you're not hearing. Therefore, the answer to your question, I have never thought that recruitment was my strength, but I have thought that patience was my strength. And so as long as you have the support, administrative support, parental support, and you have to have something to sell. So more than recruiting being my strength, I think patience is they go hand in hand. But I think the patience that I have is more of a strength than actually recruiting. And we'll get into that, I guess, a little later.
Well, this next question is, what are some steps in your recruitment process that you find valuable?
Well, the first step is establishing a goal. Establishing simple goals that you and the person who hired you, in my case, the president, and the people that are listening, hopefully, the principal. And those are the important steps. So I put that as 0. But step 1, again, there must be an established goal shared by you and your staff, and most of all by the administrators, as I've said, at the school. Step 2, I think you have to know the brand. You got to know what it is that you're trying to sell. You got to go in and talk about the university and the unique things about the university, as well as the band program that you intend to have, and that you intend to, try to attract students and people to. What can those students expect when they come to your university? Allen University is a very small university versus some of the larger schools that we are still trying to recruit the same students for. So sometimes you may accent the fact that it's small. The ratio might be 17-1 faculty rather than 30-1 at a larger school. And you accent that because I think that's something that needs to be articulated, especially those students who are going out to school. Step 3, excuse me, you kind of must portray yourself as a people person. And that's one of the things I try to do, be as down to earth as I possibly can be, because those students can read you. You don't know it, but they can actually read into you as you try to recruit them. So I try to be as down to earth as I possibly can. And you got to be conscious of the director's time. They have something to do, and they are cutting out what their schedules are to allow you to come in and talk to the kids. And most of all, you cannot lie. You can't tell the students a lie when you're recruiting. You must not offer anything you know that you can't make happen. Don't lie, and you cannot consciously make any kind of deals. And what I mean by that is there's some students, and I got to tread on this kind of lightly, but there are some who, you come and you get my students, then I need another favor from you. If I send a girl, I want my girl to make it. And if she don't make it, then don't come back to my school. So you have to look at those things kind of and pull out what's good, pull out and put back in what's bad. So you got to be astute, you got to be a people person, and you got to sort of know that the people that you're dealing with, who and what their personalities, are like.
Okay, you're recruiting already. Number three, has your recruitment style changed in your tenure as director of bands?
Well, I really don't think so. I've been doing basically the same way ever since 1975. I kind of look at myself as a door-to-door salesman. You know, the guy who used to have the vacuums and go trying to sell them. So I used to think if it's going to be very difficult to sell a vacuum cleaner to Mr. McCloud. But if I come in with a vacuum cleaner and say, well, we're going to give you a free mat, maybe Mr. McCloud might buy one. So you just got to work hard, and you got to be humble, and patience comes in. You can't be discouraged because you're not going to get students from everywhere you go. You can go to some schools, and if you left that day, you can put all those kids on the bus and take them back. But then after you left, the band director might say, hey, you don't need to go there. Or there's somebody else that's selling the same thing that you're selling that's coming in with more to say. So it's just again, patience, and then work hard and go to every door that you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The fourth question is, in your opinion, how important is professional relationships within the band community?
Let's see now. Professional relationships, Mr. McCloud, is very, very, very important. And again, this is one of those topics you got to tread lightly on because, first of all, the word professional is paramount. And although you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, concept can be dangerous to you and your program, but you got to handle that with care. There are some people who use the fact that you got to come to their school to recruit, and you may have to tread lightly on their turf. I have had band directors, a band director, without calling the name. We tried to get in that school for years. Wouldn't let us go. He wanted his kids to go to a larger school. And although the school had turned predominantly African American, he still pushed them to that big school. Now, in doing so, when you call to ask to come, first of all, you got to be polite. Again, you got to be professional. But that guy said, well, you can come, but if I let you come, all of them don't want to come. So if you send a flyer, I put your flyer on the board so my students can look at it. We did get some of those students, one or two of those students at South Carolina State, but they came because their parents had gone to South Carolina State, not because the band director condoned them going, didn't want them to go. So again, professional relationships are good, but don't sell yourself to the devil just to be a friend with some band directors. Okay. Now, you also have to be conscious of the band director's schedule. You just can't, you need to set up a time when it's convenient for the band director to see you. I don't like to go to a band director when they're getting ready for concert festival, back in January and February. But now we're finding that a lot of them don't even go to festivals, so you just call and they come on anyway. So the other thing that you can't do is, but you can do it if your professional relationships are very good with them. You just don't stop by somebody's school and say, hey, I need to talk to your kid. You can't do that. You can't do that. So you're going back again to your original question, how important is our professional relationship? Then, as it relates to professional relationship, there's some directors who may not even want a professional relationship with you because of beef I may have had with one of their friends. You know what I'm saying? So if your friend is mad with you and you don't know why he's mad, he just said you was mad. So hey, I'm busy. You can't come in. Another example. I had a band director tell me, Mr. Ellis, this year they just didn't do well, and these singers I'm not gonna recommend any of my singers. And 2 weeks later, I look on Facebook, and the person hands all around and sing, "Oh, these my babies. These my babies. I hate to see them go." Some people don't want you in the school. There's people who just don't want you in the school for whatever reason. So you got to sort of grin and bear it as you go about this recruitment process. It's very difficult to forge professional relationships with people whose mind is already made up about you and your program before you even come in there, you know. But again, as long as you don't compromise your integrity, then you need to make sure that you do the best that you possibly can to make those professional relationships work for you.
Okay, Eddie, before your last question, what would you say? You told us a lot about the college scene. What would you say to a high school band director amidst all this COVID-19 stuff and all the changes that we're going to incur when we get back to school? What would you say to them about recruitment and retention of members in their band programs?
Okay, well, we have been consistently on a lot of Zoom meetings and virtual meetings and clinics as it relates to the virus, the coronavirus. At Allen, what I would say is if those students are concerned about what we have in place as it relates to safety, then what I can say is don't worry. Every precaution necessary or that we know that we can do will be put in place to make sure those students are safe. For instance, in our dormitories hold 4 people, and they'll be cut down to 2. Classes, just say a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday class, a Monday and Wednesday class, where you have 30 people in. I'm just using 30 as an example. Half of those kids will come in person, and the other half will take the class online. And then we split it up, and then those that did online will come in person. The cafeteria, the cafeteria be open every day, all day. The salad bar won't be in the salad bar, won't be in the soda fountain, and it'll be, again, open every day so that there won't be a mad rush for the time like in the past, 7:30 to 9:30 breakfast and 12:30, it'll be open all day. So those are some of the precautions that we'll be making. Now, as it relates to band, and I'm sure some of the people that are on here, there's a federation called the National Federation of High Schools. They have come out I found out about them via CBDNA, the College Band Directors National Association, based on some of the recommendations they have made for us, and that is switching. No student can share instruments or drumsticks and stuff like that. It makes the social distancing, that is paramount. Having a limited number of students in your band room at rehearsal is something they discuss. Most rehearsals can be outdoors or should be outdoors where at all possible. So those are some of the things as it relates to the virus.
Well, I'm not going to ask you the next question because I see a lot of guys want to ask questions, so we're going to let them ask as many questions they want to ask. I know some of them just glad to see you. They hadn't seen you since the Marching 101 time, some of them on here. So I'm going to let them stack up, just let them ask the questions.
All right, Mr. Ellis, we have a few questions from the audience. First up, we have Mr. Tyrone McCullough.
Yes.
Tyrone wants to ask, what are your thoughts on social media and virtual or viral marketing campaigns? What are your thoughts on social media campaigns and viral marketing campaigns?
Ask Mr. Tyrone to tell us, what is viral marketing campaign?
He can hear you.
Yeah. Tyrone, excuse me, what is a viral marketing campaign? So based on the word viral, that means it's gone out to a lot of people. And anytime you can market your university by whatever means, via viral, via media, via Facebook, whatever you can do, that is what you should do. Anything that you can get your message out to people, then that's what you should do.
Now, I've noticed since you've been at Allen, you've taken a more, I guess, a stronger approach to social media campaigns as opposed to when you're at South Carolina State,
right,
or Forest Brown. Why is that, or is that just a sign of the times?
That's a sign of the time. I didn't know nothing about Facebook. I didn't know anything about really when I was at South Carolina State. So when I found out about Facebook and joining Facebook, I said, wow, this is a good venue to get to point, whatever it is that you want to do. But at South Carolina State, I didn't know nothing about it. Morris Brown, I definitely didn't know about it then. So yeah, it was just a sign of the times.
All right, well, we got another question coming up from Oscar Wright. Oscar, if you could unmute your microphone, please.
Oh wow, I got thrown in the spot.
In the hot seat.
Hey, Mr. Ellis.
Hey there.
Sorry, I'm kind of dog sitting too. When you're recruiting for your school, what is your go-to points for your presentation? Like band needs, school information. What's the first thing you look for when you're recruiting?
As I select the school to recruit, to visit.
Yes.
Well, as it relates to selecting the school, first of all, you got to keep in mind that we've got a staff. However, when I look for a school, I have a philosophy of this. If I can visit 100 schools and recruit 2 students, that's 200. Now, that don't happen. So I don't really go out and just say this school or that school I'm going to. I just know that I've got, again, going back to the vacuum cells, I just got to go to as many schools that I possibly can go to. Now, if you're looking for, sometimes you recruit in areas where you haven't recruited before. So you go, you select those schools, especially in the rural areas. They don't get a lot of people coming out there. So that's why I try to go to those schools. And the kids, they haven't seen it. Oh, he's coming here, and he thinks enough to come way out here to recruit us. So as a selection, I go to those schools. Then there's selection there are schools that I go to knowing I'm not going to get anybody, but I go anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Because go ahead.
And kind of follow up. Do you send out flyers or advertisements throughout the year? Because like at my school, I usually push it in front of my seniors early, so that way they get an idea. So I was trying to find out better ways as far as getting kids more involved in college bands.
Well, first of all, I think a lot of your kids may know more about college bands than you think they know. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. It's just that with social media now, even the kids in the deepest stick have heard about some of the larger bands. So in terms of flyers, I don't send them out. That may be something that I should do. But when I ask you to come to your school, whatever it is that you need for me to submit to you prior to my coming, I will do that. And the other part that we'll find out is a lot of things, the things that we're doing, we posted on Facebook. Now when I learn Facebook, that's no, they go on the Instagram. What is Instagram? And so now I got to go and learn Instagram and there's other thing on the face check, whatever you call that. It's so many things that you got to keep in mind when you're recruiting. But whatever the band director asks of me to do in order for me to come to that school, that's what I try to do.
Does the social media make it easier than years past? Since you've been recruiting since the 70s.
Yes, it makes it easier. Like you said, whether at Allen University, when I first assumed the position, they leased a car for me to use for the football coach and for me. I literally put 6,000 miles on that car, recruiting, just going from place to place to place. I put so many miles on it, they took the car back. Yeah.
Now, I know in your experience, you've been in positions that gave you the resources you needed to build a band program.
Right.
And you've been in positions that you didn't have necessarily everything you needed to be successful, but you were still successful.
Right.
What are some ways that I guess you gained that type of success in a situation where you didn't have a scholarship budget to outfit, the bands you needed?
Well, first of all, in order to again go out and recruit students, the main person you need to have is the president. And I have been lucky to have two great presidents. Dr. Andrew Hugini at South Carolina State, who's at Alabama A&M.
Amen.
When I assumed the position at South Carolina State, Dr. Hugini was right there with me. And then my current president, Dr. McCloud, this was his idea to bring the band back to Allen University. Allen hadn't had a band since 1968. And to bring that band back with athletic, he wanted to recruit students. And he wanted to recruit a better student that he found there. So already it's happening with the band. Each year, the first year, we had about 31, then 87 last year, but they quality students. Several students, 4.0 GPAs in our band now. And honor roll, being the president of SGA is going to be a band member. So we're making our presence. But back to your question, it's very important to have the support of the president. Then sometimes you can, department say, I'm not a proponent of omitting the department chair. You got to go through the department chair. But when the president has your back, go on and do your thing. The president says he wants 100 students, so you go out and get them. And the art was very important, and I think high school people can do this too. There's sometimes there's a misconception. I've run into situations where people say, hey, we're not giving all of this money to band students. And that kind of turned me off because those band students, most of them don't even major in music.
Right.
They're your biology people, they're your physics people. They turn out to be the doctors, the lawyers. So if you can get those kids to come to your school to participate in your band, then you should go at them. So at several schools, I had that situation as a problem. We're not going to put all our money in the band. Now, what they did know, and what I'm saying to the people out there and some of the college directors, you already know this, even if you don't have a budget, the budget that you want, there are ways to recruit students. You got the Pell Grant. So the maximum Pell Grant is almost $7,000, like $6,900. Here in South Carolina, you got Life, that's $5,000. You got Hope, that's $25,000. Then the South Carolina Tuition Grant, you understand? That's $3,200. It may not be that next year because the virus, they may cut it. But you see a lot of people crying about, I don't have this money, I don't have that money. I cried too because I want as much money as I can. However, you can't let that stop. You got to go out there and get those kids.
That's right.
And use whatever avenues that you have to bring them to your school. Yeah.
We have a question from the audience from Charlton Singleton.
Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
Doing all right, Charles. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, doing very well. Just trying to maintain and do my thing, you know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes,
As someone that is very much a proponent of jazz, and in the HBCU world, in the HBCU band world, it's pretty much a known fact that the marching bands get all the publicity. There are a few schools out there that have really fine jazz ensembles and get a lot of publicity, you know, more so than their marching bands, you know, places like North Carolina Central and Howard University. But my question is, how do you gain or garner interest in those other ensembles, like your symphonic and concert bands, like your jazz ensemble, and how do you get young band directors in high schools to make sure that they are incorporating those things as well, instead of just, you know, doing marching band, you know, pretty much 360?
That's an excellent question. And what I attempted to do at Morris Brown and at South Carolina State, when we recruited them, we tell the students, number one, we have a comprehensive band program. If you come to South Carolina State, if you come to Allen, if you come to Morris Brown, you will have the opportunity to participate in a jazz band, a concert band. We had 3 concert bands. We had a concert band, symphonic band, and the wind ensemble at South Carolina State. And then we have a jazz ensemble. At Allen University, we have a jazz ensemble. So I like jazz, better than marching band. So if you come to any program that I'm involved in, there will be a jazz ensemble. In my classes that we taught at Allen as well as the other one, we talk about jazz. I even made a post on Facebook once. I think it was Count Basie's band or Duke Ellington's band, and they were cooking. And I said, I wonder how would they respond if this was a battle of the bands with the jazz band? You know what I'm saying? So what you're saying, I feel you. But you should be, and everybody that calls themselves a college band director, to make sure that there is a comprehensive band program, inclusive of all the ensembles that I mentioned before that, especially if you're going to go out and teach somebody skills. You know, you just can't do marching band 12 months a year. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a real good question.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your response. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right, we got a question from the floor, once again, from Brendan Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ellis, how's it going, Doc?
Still waiting on your response.
Hey, we working it out, man. I'm trying to get 20 over there now. I'm trying to get 20. Look, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you maintain a great retention rate within your program, keeping students returning from a year-to-year basis?
Well, it's definitely not an easy thing to do. But once they come to college, if they enjoy what they're doing, if you live up to whatever it was that you promised them, if their money is right,
Mm-hmm.
If they're eating good, if they're sleeping good, and if they're having a good time in the marching band, the concert band, or jazz band. From last year, we have one student that's not coming back. One.
Wow, that's good.
And that one student is the GPA. You know, I'm not going to say that Allen is perfect or any other schools are perfect, but you still got to go to class.
Right.
That's right.
Out of the 64 people that we had last year, one is not returning, and that is because they just had a good time at college, and now the grades are bad. So, you know, I can't give them a scholarship if that GPA goes down to 2.
Absolutely.
Below 2. So that's how we try to retain them in this class.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Sir.
All right. We have a question from Justin Morris. Justin, you're up on your question.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Ellis, how you doing?
Justin, I'm doing fine, sir.
All right, all right. I just have a question. I'm a high school director. You know, we have a lot of other stuff going on around the school, like, you know, other extracurricular activities and college courses and everything. So how do you keep the interest level high in the band program with the students and parents? Because the parents think that the college courses are more important than the kids staying in the band program.
That's right.
Okay, if you're talking about high school, how do I keep them versus college?
Yeah.
First of all, in college, it's a business. You have signed on the dotted line to say that if you give me X amount of dollars so that I can receive a college degree, then I won't miss rehearsal. I will attend all performances. And then from that point on, you know, that's the way you go. Now, although band is important, but they are ultimately there to receive a college education. And in high school, they're ultimately there to receive a high school education. And they also, it's a learning experience, and parents to understand if you have given your word to say that you want to be a part of something, then you got to give your all to make sure that you're there. And whatever the requirements are to stay there, if it means going to class and you got to, you know, keep the GPA up, then you got to go. So that's what I preach on every level, you know. And my final exam in high school was the concert band festival. You didn't go to the concert band festival, you flunked.
It's still that way.
Does that answer your question, Dustin?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. We had a follow-up question from Charlton, Mr. Ellis.
Yes, sir.
And just what Brendan was asking about retention and everything, and like you said, you got a lot of students, especially if they are, you know, having a good time in band. A lot of times they fall into the trap of, man, band is all that. That's all I want to do, and at the same time, they don't go to class. Do you have some sort of system of accountability for your students?
We do, and it is not difficult to do. You got to maintain a C average to stay in this band to receive financial aid. Now, ma'am or sir, and this may be kind of hard. If your parents want to pay all of the tuition for you to go, then let the parents pay. But it's kind of crazy to throw away $10,000 just to not come to rehearsal, or not rehearsal, not go to class. So, Mr. Charlton, we stress it. If you don't have a C average, and the only way you can maintain that C average is go to class. on a regular basis. You got, yes, if you want to have fun, in order to continue to have fun, you got to go to class and maintain a C average. So yes, sir, we do stress that.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, we had a question from James Stewart.
Yeah, my question, Mr. Ellis, is this. I have observed that your band for a 2-year program seems to have been doing pretty well as far as Division II rankings. What do you attribute that success to, and what were some of those rankings, and how did you manage that in just 2 years?
Mr. Stewart, that's a good question. That's a very good question. And for those of you who don't know, there was a recent ranking that came out by the College Consensus Board, where Allen University was ranked the number 2 HBCU in the state of South Carolina, as well as number 22 in the whole country. Now, that part of it, that's the university. But the other part, as I think you're talking about our dance and color guard, they were nominated by ESPN as the number 1 rated auxiliary in Division II. Now notice I didn't say Division I, that's big boy, Division II. And what we did, we got some good teachers. We have an excellent dance coach, an excellent choreographer, and she came in, this is her first year, and she came in and achieved that in her second year. So how can we do that? It's just a lot of hard work and good kids, good kids. We don't have a lot of them, but we got a lot of good ones. All of them are good. Well, I won't say all. 95% of them are good. Yeah.
Mr. Ellis, we had a question from Warren Shaw.
Mr. Shaw.
There we go. Hey, Brother Ellis, how's it going?
Doing fine, Brother Shaw.
All right, that's good. I know you mentioned earlier about having a good relationship with your president and your upper administration as far as your recruitment goals are concerned. But I want you to speak on working with your admissions department, because I know in some instances you may not be able to get to every school. So I just want you to kind of share on how you have good relationship with your admissions into helping with your recruitment goals.
Well, I'm going to go back to Morris Brown, and then we'll come up to Allen University. And Morris, when I first went to Morris Brown, the first week I went to admission. And the gentleman there, it was his first year too. So we sort of established a very good partnership. He allowed me to go back and look at all of the applications for incoming freshmen. And from that, in addition to going out in my car to recruit, that's the way to recruit it. But what I had to do was to make sure that the admission counselor or the director of admission understood what we were trying to do, and we're going back to that band student thing. These are not only band students, these are students who will come in, they're going to be your leaders. And I don't have statistics on this, but those people in college that participate in the extracurricular activities, the football, the band, and all that other stuff, they're the ones that go be the alumni that come back and put money in school. Those people that's there, I don't think, and again, I don't have anything to prove it. I just don't believe that they get as much as those students who participated in extracurricular activities. So, Mr. Admissions, I can help you because you are going to the mall to recruit students at a recruitment store. While you going to the mall on Saturday, I can go to at least 10 schools in a week, just saying 2 per day. So I can see more students than you actually do. And with the admissions counselor, if they're not in band, but they know someone that got the CPA, I'm going to turn them as well on to you what's the mission is. So at South Carolina State, at Morris Brown, we have very good relationship with the admission director of admission. And now the admissions director at Allen worked at South Carolina State. So we tight. When he hit the road, I go save gas.
That's it. All right. Thank you, Brother Ellis.
That answer.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Ellis.
All right.
I was about to piggyback off that. I know my alma mater always has some admissions issues.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how did you deal with that when you were there, as far as making sure kids who tell you that they applied, making sure that that information gets into the system and that you see these kids, you know?
I kept a copy.
Mm.
Every time I went to a school, before I turned in, we made a copy. Not only of the application, but we made a copy of the transcript. And when there was a problem and the band director called, the parent called, and they said, admissions don't have this, or don't have, we take it right back up there, put it in, give them accept. But keep a copy, keep a copy, keep a copy.
All right, we had a question from Taylor Whitehead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ellis. First of all, thank you for this. My question is, being that you've been the band director of very large programs with Morris Brown and South Carolina State, how difficult or different is it recruiting kids to smaller programs? Because in this day and time, you know, the kids are seeing the super large programs and, you know, everybody wants to be in the large program. How different is it recruiting, you know, students to a program that has 30 or 60 kids versus 300?
Well, it's very difficult, Mr. Whitehead. It's very difficult. But you even with the difficulties, you have to share with the student and with the band director what it is that you're trying to do. And I think one of the first questions I asked in this session when they were talking about my strengths, patience is one of my strengths. I think patience is my biggest asset. However, with patience, some administrators, they want a band now. They're not patient. They want it now. And so with those put in place, you've got to go out and say, well, why would I come to Allen and not go to a larger school? And we just you know, what has been good for me at Allen, and I was surprised, there are a number of students that want to come to Allen and just say that I was a member of the first band at Allen. I tell them, not only are you going to be a member of the first band, we're going to get a plaque and put your name on the wall. So 1,000 years from now, your name is going to be on there. I was a member of the Renaissance. The first band was way back in 1920 something. But we hadn't had a band again in 50 years. And so those kids buy into the fact that I'm going to be a part of history. I don't have to come in where the upperclassmen has already made traditions. We're going to make the traditions ourselves. And that's been good for me. That's been good for me.
Thank you, sir.
When you got to, you spoke about tradition.
Right.
I wanted to talk about that for a minute. When you got to South Carolina State,
yes,
there were traditions already established.
Right.
How did you deal with managing those traditions and wanting to do some things that you wanted to do personally, but still keep true to the brand and identity of the Marching 101?
Mr. Stackhouse?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, you went away. That's a great question, Stack. That's what Mr. Stevenson said. That is a great question. I'm gonna be as honest as I possibly could be. Those traditions that did not compromise my philosophy, it was fine. But those traditions that I knew about that shouldn't be in anybody's college band, I fought it. And I fought it tooth and nail. However, it didn't necessarily work. But if you're going to be the director of band, you know what's good, you know what's bad, you know what's class. And that was just some traditions that shouldn't have been a part of anybody's college program. And during my watch, I fought it. I fought it. Didn't beat it, but I fought it. And just like now, you know, hey, I'm gonna haze you. Ain't nobody coming in here to haze you. You know, so to answer your question, again, I may sound like a broken record, but those traditions that were, in my opinion, as a band director, were good. I supported. Those traditions that had no reason to be anybody's band, I did not support. Now, there was some traditions in South Carolina State that I just didn't know about. You know what I'm saying? When I took that job, they gave me the keys. All right, you're the band director. Now, the first thing I had was a Star Spangled Banner. I didn't know that they liked Star Spangled Banner. So I had a trunk full of Star Spangled Banner. And we started playing the Star Spangled Banner. And we thought we were taking care of business. Hey, man, you can't play that one. So when we heard the Star Spangled Banner, as good as it was, then we had to say, hey, this is something that we can do. This is something because it was good. You had class to it. But there were things that I just didn't know. Nobody came and welcomed me. They said, you know, when I got there, okay, this is some of the things that we do. This is some of the things that we do. And almost my own school, we went, there was some tradition.
Right.
If you see the Morris Brown Band, they call that coming out of the hole. When they come. Okay, when we got there, the Olympics was transitioned. The Olympics was over, and they had to go back and transform the field hockey into a football field. So we didn't have a hole to come out of. We were practicing on the church parking lot, so there was no end zone, and that was just, ooh, they're not coming out of the hole. Whoa, 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 whoa. They're not sending back to McNair. So
there ain't no hole to come out of.
You didn't have no hole to come out of. But anyway, once they fixed the stadium, you know, we came out of the hole and everybody was happy, and the band director wife, you know, she was happy. She called me. And for those of you who know me, B is my middle name. Now, Eddie B, why are you not coming out the hole, honey? I said, Miss Johnson, we don't have a hole. I promise you, we coming out the hole. And that was the first thing I was faced with at Morris Brown, and that was the first thing I was faced with at South Carolina State. At Allen, if we had 10 people at our first game, those people would have gone wild because they were just so happy to see the band. So again, we're starting our own tradition at Allen.
Awesome, awesome. Now, we have a few more questions. We're not going to take too much of your time, but I just want to. You know how we do.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned McNair. Now, a lot of people don't know about the success you had at McNair. You know, you had some really good bands and some superior rated bands. And could you just speak about that a little bit?
Well, about McNair, recruiting was very important at McNair as well. Now, McNair is a result of a merger between Walker High School and Gordon High School. Gordon High School became McNair Junior, and McNair Senior. Walker became McNair Senior. So one of the first things that we did at McNair, and even I had this philosophy now, I don't want my students to say that anybody's band did anything that they didn't do. Trips, performances, festivals, everything that they did up in the north end of the county. And the north end of the county in the cab where we worked, that was where the predominantly white schools were. But they had something that they called M to M. That's where if you went to a high school in the south end where you're the majority, you could transfer to school in the north where you would be the minority. Now I couldn't stop that, but what I did try to stop is you ain't going up there because of the band. Now we didn't keep them all in our neighborhood. Matter of fact, I had the first cousin live right around the corner. 6 o'clock in the morning, his kids were on that bus to go in the county. While the kids that came tonight, now they were still asleep, but anyway, to go back. So the bands that we had, I had some very good people working at my middle school. Don Roberts, everybody familiar with Don. Don was at McDonough Jr. And then the principal went to Southwest DeKalb. So later, Mr. Turman brought Don with him to Southwest DeKalb. Now Don had worked with me again at McNair Jr. All right, so the football coach the assistant football coach at Southwest DeKalb became the head football coach at McNair. The assistant basketball coach at McNair became the head basketball coach at Southwest DeKalb. Now you talking about a rivalry back in the day. If any of you ever been to the Memorial Stadium, and you could just see the track, the visitor side, the home, it was packed. So that was part of it, but the most part, I mean, the most important reasons were the people that I had working with me at the middle school. I got to mention Mr. Roberts. I've got to mention Mr. James Staples. I've got to mention Mr. Barrett Alexander, Mr. Roy Dallas, and the dance coaches. It's been so long now, some of the names slip me. But we were successful because we have a good team. Now, I'm going to get off of that, but it's one thing that you got to remember. In that McNair cluster, we had 9 elementary schools in the McNair cluster. All of those students from that McNair cluster went to McNair Junior High School if they didn't go in the effort. And everybody in that band program at McNair Junior High School, they came to us. Now, one thing that made that possible is because all of us work together. At festival, they come up to my school, we go down to their school, the elementary, the band director, the 2 band directors that work at elementary schools, we just all did it together. So the success was a direct correlation of the cooperation that we had amongst each other at McNair Cluster. Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Ellis, I know something that you don't know. I'm going to tell you a little bit of history about Southwest DeKalb.
Yes.
Your football coach was Buckler Saying, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a Burke grad.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't know that. He went to Burke High School.
That's the one they named the stadium after him, right?
Yeah, Buckler Saying. Yeah, he's a Burke man.
All right, that's Burke.
All right, Mr. Ellis, we had a question from Mr. A. King. Mr. King, if you're still with us, could you unmute your microphone?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to get used to Google Meet. I'm so used to using Zoom. But now, hey, how you doing, Mr. Ellis?
How you doing, Mr. King?
All right. I had a question. What is your views on Kappa Kappa Psi and Tau Beta Sigma and the influences on the band program?
If it's done right, I'm with them. If it's done wrong, I'm not. And when it's done wrong, when I say done wrong, if Kappa Kappa Psi, Tau Beta Sigma, Phi Mu Alpha, if they participate in the music program and the band program, like the mission statement or charter say, we have no problem. But when it turns into just whooping butt and drinking liquor, then we got a problem. We got a problem. So I condone it. They made me honorary, but at the same Kappa Kappa Psi. But they got to do what they're supposed to do. And
right.
when it goes to more partying than help the man, I have a problem. I had problems, yeah.
Now, do you have a chapter at Allen yet, or do you have on plans of getting chapters?
Well, right now, we don't have a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And our president don't want a chapter. But I'm sure as we say, if it may eventually be one, but he doesn't want one, and I haven't argued with him.
Mm-hmm. Now, your president, as you said, is very supportive, and I see y'all have the new uniforms and the new instruments and all that good stuff. How did all that come about?
Him, the president designed the band uniform. The president designed the uniforms for the football team, and then for the instrument, we went and got a Con Selma deal, and that was it. You know, I want a band. Tell me what you need.
Wow.
Well, Stackhouse, that's not the only answer. Bishop Green wanted the band too, so Bishop Green told the AMMEA church, "Give us the money."
Wow.
And he got a shrewd businessman right there with Eddie, so Eddie's gonna get that money, you know.
Well, I'm glad you remind me of Bishop, because yes, sir, the bishop and the president and the board of trustees, they all were so in on that band. And we played Edward Waters this year. When I tell you, Little Allen, we had more people in our stand than Edward Waters did because of the 7th District and Bishop Green.
Mm.
Charlotte buses for all the AMMEA churches from the Charleston area and South Carolina. And when they came out, I saw those things, and they were proud. They were just proud. So Bishop Green plays a big part. He wants a band.
Mr. Stackhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Stewart here. Can I ask
sir.
Mr. Ellis one question quick here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Ellis, it looks like the Division I schools and some of the larger schools are still fighting and may still have a football season. If they do have a football season and they start half times back and stuff, what is your goal for this year as far as the Allen band and what kind of group you want to put on the field and what's your thoughts on that?
But my thoughts is we are planning now as if we were going to have a season. All right. Now, Allen currently is in the NAIA, and they're waiting on recommendations from the NAIA as it relates to how they're going to do football. So how they do football will boil down to how we do marching band. Although we've stated that if we don't have football, we'll still have a marching band in the fall, and we'll house that marching band based on the recommendation and the standards set by those people that set the standards for this virus kind of situation. But as it relates to football, we are waiting on the NAIA, the conference, to make whatever recommendation they make. Now, after this year, we hopefully will be in the NCAA. Will probably be Division II in the SIAC. I'm saying that, but it may not be. But it'll probably be the SIAC. But once the NIA comes up and agrees with when the season starts and what we can do, then we'll sort of make our determination as to what we're going to do as it relates to the band program.
Now, Allen is, I guess, it's the goal of the university then to get in the SIAC conference?
It is, they paid the money for application. Mm-hmm. And once it's accepted, we become on the probation status, and then we'll play in the SIAC schedule. So I would feel safe to say that that's where I want to go. But the CIAA is Division II as well. And nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Why was it the SIAC chosen over the CIAA?
Again, that's something that the athletic director have to ask. But the proximity, I think, Benedict is right across the street. That's SIAC. Then Albany, Savannah, Fort Valley, Miles, mm-hmm. as CIAA, I think, what's that, Livingstone, and then Winston-Salem, Shaw.
It's a lot of them in North Carolina, yeah.
Yeah. but they're close as well. So I don't know why they said SIAC, or if they are leaning that way, then I don't know.
All right. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right. If there's not, Mr. Ellis, we have enjoyed this session today. You have given us a lot of knowledge and a lot for us to take back to our programs if we ever get back. If everyone does not mind, could we please unmute our microphones? Let's give Mr. Ellis a nice round of applause for taking his day to share with us valuable information. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it greatly. Appreciate it greatly. If there's no other comments, questions, or concerns, I would like to say that this session has been hosted by AMMEA, which is the Advocates for Music and Music Education Association. Mr. Ellis, we thank you greatly for your membership in our new Music Educators Association. And if anyone in the audience would like to become members of this organization, you can visit our website at www.ammea.org. And our mission is to cultivate, support, and enhance music and music education, specifically in the state of South Carolina, through fostering academic partnerships, professional learning opportunities, and resources for classrooms. And Mr. Ellis, you've done a great deal to contribute to that today.
Okay, could I say one thing? I gotta say
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I didn't think about it until Mr. Green, our trumpet instructor, posted a few moments ago. We're still recruiting, ladies and gentlemen. If you got any good singers out there, Mr. McCloud, that at this point they wanted to go to Notre Dame, but they don't have Notre Dame money. So we are still recruiting. E. Ellis at allenuniversity.edu. Get me on Facebook.
Amen, amen, amen. Thank you so much, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Magruder?
Yeah, Dr. Magruder. How you doing, sir?
Hey, wait a minute, let's see.
All right, all right.
Yes.
Hey, man, how's everybody?
Everybody.
All right.
Shout out to all the band directors.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hey, Ellis.
Yes,
good,
sir.
Man?
I'm good. We got to go to Atlanta.
I'm saying, I know, man.
Wait till it cool down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everyone,
Ellis, Mark Phillips here.
Director of Bands at Winston-Salem State University. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Magruder.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Longtime fan from even of your arrangements back in the Jackson State days.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yes,
and Roxanne Stevenson is here too from Chicago State. I just saw her picture.
Oh man, welcome, welcome.
Hey, you guys.
Welcome.
All right.
All right.
Eddie Ellis, Mark Phillips from the big state of Texas enjoyed you today. It looked like you might have a second line of work doing interviews like this.
Thank you, sir.
I think Felicia Cousins was on the line too, from Virginia Union.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Felicia.
Hey, how you doing? I'm here. I enjoy it.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Right. Thank you all for joining us today.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if that's not it. If no one else has any comments or concerns, we'll go ahead and end this session.
All right.
And we'll catch up with you next time, next week, same time.